You're going.
All right, so we're gonna work on the foot, the ankle, and the lower leg today. Brought my little cheat sheet here. So we're gonna start out just with like palpation. We want to get a sense of how the bones are moving, how the joints are moving, and how the muscles and the tissues are feeling. So we can start off with just like some light compression on the tib ant. Okay. These compressions, people really like just compression going up the leg. You know, get a sense of the tissue. Feel if it's kind of adhered down to the tibia. And you can see how Evan just kind of naturally sits. And he's pretty much in good plantar flexion here, so I'm not really going to work too much on trying to promote plantar flexion. Just want to get a sense of that, and just relax that foot. Get a sense for how that moves. You know, I'm coming to neutral and it's pretty tight, so I'm sensing he has a little bit of gastroc tightness. That knee kind of pops up a little bit. Okay, so I might do a little bit of work to promote some dorsiflexion. Okay, you know, I might get some, if I get the that's not going to go over to me, so I'll go over here. You know, I might just get some posterior glides, see how that's feeling. Some anterior glides. And that wants to anterior glide nice and easily. Not feeling too much posterior glide, which kind of makes sense. It's kind of restricted in dorsiflexion. So, you know, you're just getting a feel for how this foot's moving. You know, you can just kind of be working in some nice compression as you're kind of doing like a little assessment. Get that heel nice. See how that heel's moving. You know, see how the midfoot's moving. People like to just have their bones manipulated. It kind of feels relaxing just to have their foot maneuver, and you might hear some snoring. Start working on the foot. Really puts people to sleep. Okay. Can you hand me that? Throw me that small container. Actually, the whichever one's the chocolate smaller one. I think it's the small one. Okay. So I might just kind of get a feel for how his retinaculum moving. So he's got that ankle retinaculum here. You know, somebody who's just injured their lateral ankle ligaments with an ankle sprain, you might get a feel for any fibrousness on their ankle retinaculum with your fingers and their ligaments. Okay. So that wouldn't be something that you would want to be stretching. It'd be something you might want to work out with some cross fiber friction if you were to get into that. Okay. So let's see. So I'm going to start just getting a little bit of, not getting much on there, just a little bit. Okay, so it's just some spreading, getting that tissue away from that tibia. That tibia on the medial side into that posterior tib with some fingertips. I'm showing a lot of strokes here. The idea is just to kind of guide you with a number of strokes and let you figure out where you need to focus in on and what type of stroke you want. So, you know, if you're doing a stroke with your palm up the tib ant, you know, you could certainly use your fist. You know, feel free to use whatever tool you want. Now, by now, you have a good idea what different tools to use. So, feel free to play with this by now. So, starting to look at moving past just moving tissues around with your hands and your different body parts, thinking about what is your intent. You know, if you're looking at this tib ant, you know, where does it start? Up here at the lateral aspect of the tibia and fibular head. It comes across and attaches to what the medial cuneiform and the first ray, like that. So it not only dorsiflexes, but it also is an inverter. So if you're looking at somebody who has a flat foot versus a high arch, you know, thinking about, do I want to promote lengthening? Do I want to promote shortening on this? So somebody with a high arch, you know, you might do a little work to with like an anchor and stretch to kind of stretch that out. But somebody with a flat foot that's already kind of lengthened out, stretched out a little bit, you're not going to do that same type of stroke where you're trying to lengthen that. So you might be doing some work where you're kind of bringing that up, just kind of give a stimulus in dorsiflexion to that muscle that does that action, provide like a facilitated shortening. Okay. You know, if you're finding that there's some fibrousness in that retinaculum, you know, somebody has a high ankle sprain or even a bad lateral ankle sprain, you can get into that with your knuckles. And just trying to work across it. So those fibers are going to be coming across like this. So you can work across those fibers. Again, so if I'm working on, I got some bony areas there, I got some tendons underneath there, some skinny tendons. I don't really want to be getting too specific on those. Like a nice skinny tendon isn't something to be going in, digging in with your fingertips deep or with the point of your knuckles deep. But if you use that flat part of your knuckles, you can work to break up some of that tissue. I mean, I'm not feeling anything on Evan that needs to be broken up in there, but that's something that you can do with that. You can do that same thing, kind of getting onto that lateral ankle. Again, you want to be using a broad surface on that. You don't want to be poking around on that with your knuckle, with a fingertip digging in on that, because that's going to hurt. You want to be using a broad surface. Okay, so we worked on the tib ant a little bit, so we got maybe some anchor and stretch you can do, some facilitated shortening. Okay, another way you can work on that is, you know, if you find it's kind of bogged down a little bit in one area more than another, you can kind of get your knuckle in there, and you can kind of just do like a little twirl there. All this all right for you? Okay, so in the prone position, you can even work on the gastroc. You know, it's actually one of my favorite ways to work on the gastroc. You set that up like this, and I just come and just sit on that like this, and I can kind of get some nice compression strokes. Just to kind of say hello. You can actually get some almost percussion just to kind of warm that up if you're doing like a sports massage type thing. You want to get somebody loosened up before they start a workout session, a therapy session. And in the meantime, I'm not just doing that, I'm also getting a sense of the tissues here. Okay, so now I can also, you know, we have fascial compartments here. We had an anterior, you got anterior, posterior, and there's a medial compartment, I believe, too. So we can work on getting those compartments, if we feel that they're kind of stuck down to that tibia, we can start to rotate those a little bit. You know, I might hang out in one of those for 30 seconds to a minute if I feel it's adhered. You know, I might just kind of sit here like, yeah, it's just feeling a little tight. I might wait 30 seconds, 45 seconds and just let that release. You know, and I can kind of pull that back. Again, so I'm not just trying to push with my hands here. You know, I got my elbows, they're not quite straight, but they're straighter than they are bent. And I'm just kind of pushing with that back foot. Okay, and I can, if I just grab a little bit more here, put it on my fingertips. You know, he's got that big, broad, muscular septum between the two heads of the gastroc. So I can start from that septum all the way up to, from the top near the insertion, and start to work my way out and just kind of separate those from the septum, separate those heads. I can kind of define that septum. In this position here, it's a good position to work on the soleus too. Okay, so we think about the gastroc. The gastroc crosses both the knee joint and the ankle joint. So if we're in this position here, it's going to be on a little bit. It's going to be have a little bit more tension. And you can see he just falls right into plantar flexion. So that's not going to be as much of the case as somebody who sits, you know, they're a little bit more like this. But if you put somebody up like this, that gastroc just softens nicely. So when I'm down low, I can get into that soleus nice and easy. Because that soleus, you know, it's going to be a little bit lower, more inferior, and then it's going to kind of come up underneath the gastroc. It's not going to go all the way up, but it's going to have a chunk of that soleus is going to be deep to those gastrocs. So you can do some work on that soleus. You know, I'm kind of like right at the base of his gastroc here. You know, then I can come in, that septum, I kind of sink through it a little bit. You know, let my fingers sink through it. Now I'm working through his gastroc onto his soleus. It's all about intention. You're taking the time to sink in onto that soleus. So right now I'm kind of at the edge of his soleus, and now I have his gastroc kind of like right there. I can feel that. So I don't need to continue that stroke because now it's going to be on gastroc. You know, kind of get a feel for that. Okay. So why don't we transition to working on the foot. I'm just going to grab a stool. Oh, one other thing I wanted to show while working on like that gastroc. So you can do a lot of things in this position too. I mean, you can even, if I come here, now I'm hands-free, and I can really push that into dorsiflexion. So I can get onto that. So if I feel some fibrousness or anything, if I'm on that Achilles, you know, I want to get that on a stretch and kind of do some cross fiber work. Or if I want to do, if I can get underneath there, I can kind of do like rake my, so I'm feeling not so much here, but if I go out here, that's probably a little bit more tender than it is in there. So if I get my fingers onto that spot, I can kind of find that spot, put them on a stretch, and work a little bit here.